It's 8 o'clock. Welcome to Tribe TV. We've got a special week going on called The Prophets Speak. In these unusual days, global pandemic going on, I decided to connect up with my prophetic friends and connections in the United States and South Africa and Australia and around the UK and ask, what is God saying? And you know what? There's an immense amount of clarity. God is speaking into this situation right now, and he's speaking into life after lockdown. Where are we going, and how is God going to use this time? So we're bringing you, well, I've said a week. I think it's going to turn into two because we've got so much material to share with you. So we might end up doing a second week of the Prophet Speak because God is speaking so powerfully. And I don't know about you. You know, when prophecy is delivered, it isn't just information. With it comes power and empowerment to live life. So let the word of God just ring in your heart in this time and begin to write down what you feel God is saying. And hey, send it to me. I would love to hear what God is saying to you right now because it's a powerful time. And I found God is speaking very, very powerfully. Tonight, we've got a dear friend called Roma Waterman. Vicky and I interviewed her a few days ago to ask her about a prophecy that she'd released and then to also say, what else is God saying to you right now? She's a wonderful prophetic creative minister, a songwriter, worship leader. She trains thousands of people in prophetic art and creativity. And so I was really interested to hear her perspective. So tonight, from Australia, it's our dear friend, Roma Waterman. Hi, Roma. Great to be with you. How is life in lockdown for you?
I'm missing my coffee, but apart from that, life is good.
Oh, coffee, big time. Coffee and the homeschooling, that's just not so, Lord help us all, right?
Yeah. You need it to balance the scales a little bit.
Wow. And how is it in Australia right now?
It's probably very similar to where you are now. I think we're in stage 4 lockdown. We can't go anywhere or do anything unless it's an essential service, and we're homeschooling. Obviously very blessed to have most of my ministry work online. My hubby's still able to work, but a lot of our friends have lost their jobs, their businesses have closed down, and we've got a lot of pastor friends as well who, it's been a very challenging time. I'm sure people watching this are also going through that as well, but feeling peace. I don't know if you are. I mean, I know it's frantic and busy, but I feel like it's going to be okay,
It is going to be okay. I mean, this is, you talk about people losing jobs and the financial pressure. More than ever, the name of God being provider is going to just be the thing that we rest on. This is when he's really going to show some of us that have kind of lived by faith in inverted commas. In other words, haven't always had a regular wage. We've had to prove that God provides not just through an employer. So we can still trust God in this time. Doesn't mean everything will be the same, but this could be a breakthrough moment for many people, I believe.
Yes. Yeah,
Really.
I believe that too. And one of the things I've been sensing is this real, like the Lord's been saying to me, you need to do things that cause a disruption in your thought processes, because it's really easy when, especially if you're an extrovert, for example, to be home all the time. Your brain can be kind of stuck in this moment, or if you are struggle with mental health issues or whatever reason, our brain gets into this cycle of thinking a certain way. And the Lord's been saying to me the last few days, you need to bring disruptions, things that cause disruptions to those thoughts. So for example, it can be really practical. It can be things like burning essential oils. You know what I did today? Because homeschooling was hard yesterday. It went for like 3 times longer than it was supposed to. It was probably my fault. But anyway, and there were a few tantrums and they weren't from my child.
I think we're all there right now.
So I felt the Lord just go, you need to do something to disrupt that. So every hour today for 7 hours, I set my phone alarm, and every time it went off, I stopped what I was doing and I thanked the Lord for something. And it had to be different every time. And that totally fixed my day. So I just feel like we need to recognize that it's okay that you're feeling these things. Life is a little frantic, especially for people in ministry right now. And we need to do some practical things to just bring that disruption to the thoughts, to realign us back to what is heaven saying, what is God saying, because he is speaking. And I almost feel like we could miss this moment because we're going into fix-it mode, especially people in ministry and leadership. We're just going, we've got to fix this. We've got to have something on Facebook Live. We've got to do church services as good as Hillsong, and I've got lots of pastors ringing me going, I'm so discouraged. I don't have the equipment. I don't know how to do this. It's just me and my husband pastoring a church. I don't know how to do this. And I just feel like there needs to be a release, like take the pressure off. It does not have to look the way someone else does it. In fact, I feel like in this season where everybody's coming online, you'd think that it would make you feel less, it feels like the spotlight's on you a heck of a lot more, doesn't it? It doesn't, there's nowhere to hide. But I actually feel like there's going to be a leveling of the playing field take place. That's probably the wrong way to describe church, but I think you understand what I mean. I feel like churches and communities that haven't had all the bells and whistles and the online presence that a lot of other churches have had, but they've got the substance, they've got the authenticity, they've got the supernatural taking place in their services. There is going to be a leveling of the playing field. These people are going to be coming to the forefront, and it's not because it's about one particular church. The joy of this is God is building his church, and I just feel there's a lot more people that are going to come into the fold, into the family, because they're starting to see church looks different if they just look with different eyes. So,
I agree. And I think even as we come out of lockdown, the shape of church is going to be different, because I'm not anti attractional services, but this has been at a time when those are much harder to do. So those that live off going to big crowded meetings and enjoying the atmosphere, that's been stripped away. And suddenly those with real life in circles, we call it in our church, real genuine depth of connection have stayed strong in this time, because actually they're not dependent on pumping music and inspiring sermons, but genuine spiritual life, which comes straight from God and straight from deep connections with others. And I think that is what is going to transform the church as well right now. That's outstanding. I love that.
I love it. I'm excited.
Now, you released a prophetic word recently.
You did. The word about the Renaissance and New Renaissance really impacted so many people.
We love it.
And my mind immediately went to your book, The God Artist. So I'm going to give you a book plug now for
Thank you.
Cool book.
The God Artist is an awesome book for all creatives, all worshippers, and it's about raising a new breed of artists and worshippers in the earth. So my mind went to, in the book, you go through the history about, and one of the areas, the periods you look at is the Renaissance, which actually means new birth. So shall we just watch that word that you gave, and then we'd love to have your comments on that.
Hey friends, I hope you're doing great. I want to share with you something that's really burning on my heart. I feel like we are embarking on a new renaissance in the creative arts. I don't think I need to be a prophetic person to see that is happening, and it is a word. It's a phrase that's being thrown around at the moment by a lot of prophetic people, and we're kind of bouncing off each other. I think I said something in an Instagram live about a new renaissance that was coming, and Vicky Simpson, my friend, shared what she felt was on her heart. And today, a friend of mine, Drew Neal, was also talking about it, which has prompted me to create this video, because I want to encourage you creatives, you innovators, people that are advancing technology, not just the arts, but technology and business right now, that there is a new renaissance that is emerging right now that we have not seen on the earth. And it is because of what is happening right now. How do I know this? Well, if I look back into history, and if I have a look at the Renaissance, the first time a Renaissance occurred, I was actually amazed at what I found. I want to share some of the things with you and the comparisons that I'm sensing in this season. The first thing is, the Renaissance actually came out of what? The Black Plague. There was a pandemic across the earth, and because of that, people had to find new ways to earn an income because the old ways were not working anymore. And guess where the Black Plague hit the hardest and first? It was Italy. So artists started to emerge out of that season, and I believe the same is going to happen. I actually believe Italy is again going to be at the forefront of a new surge of creativity that's going to take place, and the world is going to follow. And what happened was these people started creating art, and they became a very, very rich nation, and their culture, as you know, became beautiful. To this day, it has echoed through the centuries. And I feel that the same thing is about to happen, that in great tragedy, in great pandemic, there is going to be songs, there are going to be songs that are released, and sounds and art and dance that is going to be like something we have not seen before. Even now, you may notice there is much more people online right now posting their songs, posting their creative expressions. This is just the beginning. This is like the droplets of what is about to come. The other thing I noticed about the Renaissance was that it was the priests that were going into people's homes. Now, this is an interesting thought. It was the priests that were going into people's homes to read people their last rites. And a lot of these priests, unfortunately, because they were exposed to the Black Plague, a lot of priests died. A lot of priests. I think more than any other industry, priests were dying. Now, why am I saying that? I'm not saying that pastors and leaders are going to die, but what actually happened because of that was that there was a lack of leaders and a lack of pastoral care in the church at the time. So what did they do? They had to raise people up really, really quickly. And because of that, there was a lack of training in this new era of priests. And then because of that, the outworking of that was that the church, corruption started to seep into the church. And the result of that is what I want to talk about. And that was people started to think for themselves. They started to really question why they believed what they believed, because they'd been taught for so long in peaceful times who God was, and they just believed it for themselves. But as corruption entered the church, they started to go, well, who is God really? What about science and technology? And there started to become a people that started to think for themselves. Now, I don't believe we're going to see corruption in the church, but one thing I do think is happening is there is a reset going on. I think that the church is getting a shake-up right now, the beautiful bride of Jesus, and I don't see this in a negative way, but God cares and loves about us so much. He is not allowing corruption to seep in this season. He is shaking all of us up. Even the pure of heart, he's saying, hey, why do you do what you do? What is the purpose of why we create? What is the purpose of our church gathering? So I feel like during this season, just like in the Renaissance, there is a shake-up that is happening in the church that is exciting, and it is going to propel us into a season of unprecedented growth and of supernatural signs and the miraculous. I am so excited about that. What if a song could release healing? What if a dance could break cancer over somebody's body? That is going to happen even more so in this season. I'm just going to go to my notes because I wrote some more notes here. Well, the final thing that I just want to say was that I believe this reset is going to take place, and I felt like there needed to be a response of what we can do at this time, because it's not enough for me to share all these amazing things and how exciting we can be during this season. I actually think we need to think about what is our response in this season. I want to go to my notes to tell you this is what I felt. I felt like the Lord say it is our role as creative innovators to release peace and life through your creativity. So in everything you are writing, let your response not be to fear or to pain right now. Now, I know that there is a space for the melancholy. I know that there is a place for those heartfelt messages where you're feeling things that break you. But I feel like in this season, as God artists, as people that are at the forefront of this battle, your role is to release peace and healing right now. And so that needs to be at the forefront of what we are creating. And I also just felt like we need to pray. And I think prayer looks really different for a creative person. I think prayer can be sitting at a piano and just singing out something prophetically that no one will ever hear. It might mean going on a walk and just declaring peace and life as ideas and thoughts come to you and the Holy Spirit reveals what you need to pray for. It might even be if you have somebody that you know that is struggling with COVID-19, you're declaring peace and life over them by writing a poem or by declaring peace and life in a different form of prayer than you have imagined previously. Again, this is where the innovation is not just taking place where the world can see it, but it's an innovation that's taking place in our hearts, in how we respond in prayer and intercession in what the Holy Spirit is revealing to us. And finally, I felt like we need to spend time thinking of others and how we can serve them. We need to spend time thinking of others and how we can serve them. What happens in a pandemic, although we've never seen something on a global scale, it's very easy for us to minimize it to what is happening to our family, what is happening to us. I mean, the lack of toilet rolls in the supermarket is a perfect example. But what would it look like in this season if we started thinking about others and how to serve them? This does not mean we're neglecting our family. It actually means the opposite. I think that we are connected to society more than we anticipate or realize. And when we start to only think about our own peace in the world, our PIECE, our own peace in the world, we are losing the value of love that Christ has for others, whether they know him or not. So the 3 ways that we can respond as there is a reset coming, a new renaissance coming, is to release peace and life through your creativity, to pray creatively, and to spend time thinking of others and how we can serve them. I hope that's a blessing to you. I am excited. I grieve with those who grieve. I stand and I be smart. I'm not being silly, but I believe that a new renaissance is coming, and you and I are a part of it. I hope that blesses you.
Wow, that is an incredible word for this season right now. Roma, have you got anything you want to add to that? Because that was probably a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, it's interesting because it was a word that had been burning in my heart for quite a long time, and I almost didn't release it because then, COVID-19 happened, and I'm thinking, is this really the appropriate time to release this word? So I went and did a little bit of research, and I talked about this in the video, the idea, and I think this is why I ended up feeling compelled to release it, because one of the things about the Renaissance that really was amazing to me was that this rebirth, took place after the Black Plague. It was an epidemic, it was a pandemic that took place that affected the globe, but it hit Italy first. And there's really something about Italy. I just feel like, I don't know if you feel that, you live closer to them. As you know, we were there for the first time in November, and it's where my family's from. And I remember walking those streets and, filled with people. And then recently I saw a video where someone had filmed the streets and nobody was there. And my heart just went, there is something about to take place there. And so I want to mark it on a video and just say, keep your eyes on Italy, because there is a movement again that's about to take place. But I also feel like there's, in some ways, a shaking of the church that's going to take place. That was why I was hesitant to release that word originally, because I love the church. I love the bride. So I never want to say anything that sounds like I'm putting the church down. But I do feel just like the Renaissance. So what happened was these artists, they almost became godlike. They started to create these beautiful works of art. And, what happened with the Black Plague was the church started to, all their priests started dying because they were the ones giving the last rites. And so they had to raise up priests really quickly. So at one time, one side you've got this flurry of creativity happening, and the other side you've got the church trying to frantically fix things. Does that sound like what's happening now? Raising up modern day prophets, raising up the pastors, raising up the leaders, and corruption started to come in. But what that did, that's where really some people would look at the age of reason in a negative light, but I think it's wonderful. I think good theology, and it comes firstly from having a personal revelation of Jesus, but it also comes from learning to think for yourself. And that's what happened after the Renaissance. People started to go, well, did the Bible really say that? And if the priest says that, does that really mean what the Bible really says. And I feel like we're coming into a season where people are actually going to start thinking for themselves, but it's going to lead them to a personal revelation of who Jesus is. They're not, and I'm talking about people in the church right now, because I actually think 70% of people that go to church, you're going because it feels good, and you've never really had your own personal revelation of Jesus. Do not take that as a condemnation in any way. Part of it is actually our fault as leaders in some ways, because it's changed so much with the birth of social media and television and the way that church appears to people. But when all those bells and whistles again are gone and people are just left with Jesus, I think that there is a renaissance that's about to take place in people's personal lives. And the beautiful thing about the renaissance, and even, I released a word today about being an Imagineer, is this combination of creativity and artistry being married with engineering and construct and very clever frameworks. And I feel that that's where we're headed as a church of God artists, that we're going to be able to bring these two together. In some ways that's happening a little bit with the way we're bringing church online. I mean, I love what you guys are doing with Tribe. I just think it's unique. I think it's different. You're trailblazing an area there, and I think more of that is coming for people, where they start to realize they don't have to make it look like something they've seen. Like what you're doing, I haven't seen it, and that's why I love it. And I think there's more of that's coming, and there is a need for that, because there's so many more people to reach. So all of a sudden, the Renaissance to me doesn't just mean we're creative, we're having awesome worship services, we're writing great songs. It means to me that people are authentically expressing creativity in a way that has an evangelism component. Wow. Worship should be evangelism, and that to me is what the Renaissance word is all about. People being drawn to the heart of the Father through creativity.
Come on.
Brilliant.
I love that.
Wow.
I love that. And even in this time, I about a year ago, I began to have, it started with a dream, and then it kind of followed on with prophetic words that, so this was a year ago, helping people in their ones and twos encounter God at home. I remember after the dream, and there was even this famous worship leader in the dream said to me, it's not about the crowd, it's about the one and twos in their homes. And I was like, well, I'm into services and, big events and concerts and all this kind of stuff. That's the world that I'm in. That's a bit of a weird one, ones and twos in their homes. But of course, that speaks right into this season now, that the artistry can even begin now to be, there's an enforced innovation as people learn to explode their art in new ways. And even some, I know it's not true of, let's say, the medical profession, but some have got time on their hands, but they can't do what they normally do. So they're forced to innovate in a new way. So this is going to lead to a great renaissance. It is a birthing moment. And even like you say, in the church, I heard a great quote, I think it was yesterday, and it was something like this. People go to church, or it might have been to Bible school, to learn about Jesus, but they go to the wilderness to meet Jesus.
Wow.
And I think with all of us collectively, you talk about maybe 70% of the church don't quite know God in the deep way that they would actually like to. And I think God has pushed everybody out into the wilderness, which is where even Jesus was formed for ministry. And I think we're in the wilderness. But you know what? Revival pictures are things like streams in the wilderness. There's always a positive and a negative. If God's going to be a stream, he goes to find a desert to put it in. And I just think we're in a desert right now. But it's going to lead to this innovation, this renaissance, this explosion of evangelism. Yes. We love that word. It's so on point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, as you're talking, I know I don't want to take up all your time, but as you're talking, my brain is just, because I do feel like it's this idea of going back to normal is never going to happen. And that's not a sad thing. I think we're going to have a new normal. We have to accept, we can't just live this time out and then go back to something. I don't think that even the Lord wants that. I think he is going to use this space. Like you said, it's uncomfortable in the wilderness. I actually think it's going to get more uncomfortable before it gets back to a new normal. And I keep hearing in my spirit lately, I don't know what to make of this. I'm wondering if you're feeling the same. I keep hearing that a changing of the guard is about to take place. I'm just having this feeling of there's a changing of the guard, and it's going to be quite arresting. It's going to make people feel very like, we can't rest on our laurels. Things have changed so much. But at the same time, I keep hearing the Lord say, this is not the first time I've been here in this place across the earth, and I'm still here. I've still survived this.
Yeah.
And so I think we're getting that sense for us not to feel afraid. We're not trying to get words that are scary, but it's to remind us that when these things happen, our steadfastness is in Christ.
Yes.
But I do think, and I'm saying that word changing of the guard here on video because I actually don't know what that means, but I keep hearing it. So I just want to have a signpost somewhere that I said it somewhere and just, mull over that with some other people, maybe the people that are watching this video, to see what that means. I have no preconceived ideas for what that means, but I know that the Lord sees it. He sees it before we do, and we don't have to be in shock when it happens, and that God will use it, just like he has in many places in history before, to bring about people to himself, draw people to himself.
Come on. I think that's the thing in this time of change, where even when you say, Roma, and I totally agree with it, that, things are never going to be the same again. There's a little bit of the human side of me goes into grief. As a pastor, I'm already tired, and I'm thinking, new. I mean, I am actually wired to quite like new. Talk to my team. I drive them nuts because everything is always new. But, so there's a human response with a little bit of grief and perhaps a little bit of fear, and also a little bit of, I don't want to miss it. But then we've got to remember, well, two things. God is already in our tomorrows. So if we stick close to him, there's nothing to fear. And the second one is he's going to use this only for our good. And then let me add a third one that I think people need to realize. All your old prophetic words still count.
Oh, that's so good.
You might be stood on a different place in the mountains, so they look different. Now, your perspective has changed, but the word of God hasn't changed. He's still expanding his kingdom, wants to see the world saved, so we got to go reach them. And your personal destiny has not changed, just your perspective is changing. So there are lots of things we can stand on that are absolutely solid.
That's amazing. I love that. That's powerful.
Roma, we love you to bits. Love to Ted and Angel and Asa. We're praying for you. And
thank you.
We want to, we're going to put details of your website and your courses and your books in with this program so people can connect with you. Roma is an awesome ministry. Been over to the UK twice now to be with us.
Ready to come back. I love it there. Just when it's summer.
Come on. And we wandered the streets of Italy together and southern France, which was fantastic. And so we can't wait to see you again in person and give you all a completely not safe distancing hug. And that will come soon. The hugs will come back. That's what we've got to tell everybody. I do wonder if people think it's going to be post-apocalyptic. It's not. It's just going to be raised up a level in God. That's what I believe. So we love you and thank you for taking part in the Prophet Speak this week.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Wow, wasn't that incredible? A little bit of history with a prophetic message too. Listen up, creatives. There is innovation and creativity bubbling to the surface in this time as God moves on the church. Let's expect new strategies, new sounds, new ideas. I want to encourage you to connect with Roma Waterman. We'll put her details in the notes with this program. She trains people in the prophetic, in creativity. She has all sorts of online courses. I mean, she is the online king. Can we say that? The online queen, I suppose she'd have to be. Just incredible at her online training, and I encourage you, take a look at her website if you're a creative and you want to grow in loads of different areas. Roma really can help you. Now, talking about creativity, there's a wonderful church down It's got campuses in Leicester and Loughborough and Nottingham, and they have got a collective there. They're called the Junction Church, so it's called Junction Collective, and they have been coming out with some beautiful sounds and songs in this season. And I want to play you one tonight called Now to the King. The details of how to get hold of this song will be in the notes with this program too. But let's enjoy one of these new sounds arising in this day. Now to the King.
Grace is pouring, mercy's flowing, faith is growing, is here. Hearts are turning, heaven singing, hope is rising, is here. Endless in truth and justice. His name is Jesus. He's here now to the King be the glory, be the honor. You are
Well, I hope tonight God has encouraged you or touched your life in some way. Please leave a comment or email us. We'd love to hear from you if you've been encouraged by these broadcasts. There is a free album waiting for you to download if you sign up to our e-news. And now, if you stick around, I'm going to tell you about the Tribe, our online learning community. And if you want to come and get involved in that and get connected and stay connected to us in the future, then join our Tribe. Hi, I'm Jarrod Cuba. I want to tell you about the Tribe. The Tribe is our global online learning community made up of believers, leaders, pastors, influencers, artists, all devoted to growing in God together. We're passionate about the things of the Spirit, growing in prophecy, miracles, signs, wonders. We're passionate about revival and the reformation of society, God doing something that will transform the world around about us. And we're passionate about great leadership, doing things with skill and integrity that, again, will impact the world around about us. There's 3 tiers to the Tribe. The basic level is Learn, and that's access to our growing library, over 400 units of video, audio, and e-courses to grow you in your faith and walk with God. There's a private Facebook group, an Instagram group where you can interact with others and with us in a more live way. Tier 2 is called Lead, and it's our global leadership tribe where we add a lot more leadership content. As soon as you join, you get 4 of my books on leadership and how to grow in the area of leadership. And every book that we write during your membership, you will get for free sent to you as an ebook. And then that tier has its own private Facebook group and Instagram group where you can connect with others that are growing in the same journey. Tier 3 is an extension of Tier 2 really. It's called Lead Plus, and it's where you can take your whole team, up to 10 people, and have them join under one membership so you're all learning and growing together. I want to invite you to join us on this journey. Join us in the Facebook group, the Instagram group, where we can interact together and then enjoy the massive amount of teaching on the Tribe Zone that could absolutely transform your ministry. Isn't it wonderful that we can connect around the world like this now with the power of the internet? Let's use it for good, and let's walk together and grow together in the things of God.